A very good morning and a warm welcome to this week's edition of The Dialogue. My name is Simakolo and it is time to look back at those big events that made our week. To the show, commiserations to all who are actually facing challenges of different nature, but of course we have to commiserate with the families of the students in Kasese, the school which was attacked last night by unknown gunmen suspected to be ADF rebels along the Mpondwe border between Uganda and DRC. The reports that are coming in indicate that 25 students were murdered in that horrendous attack. 8 are still nursing serious injuries and several others were abducted. We pray with the families and we hope for the best. On the show this morning, Dr. Jared Wanzara, researcher at African Leadership Institute, is already in the studios. Richard Bakumatinka-Simile, communication expert, an advocate for proper nutrition, is in the studios, but will be also joined by Charity Ahimsiwe Kalebo, a human rights activist, to take on several issues that made rounds in the week. Welcome once again. Very busy week, though sad news are actually coming in. The passing of the Supreme Court judge and all other issues. We can also send our quick recovery messages to His Excellency the President, who is still in isolation because of COVID-19. He missed out on high-level meetings, including one in Kiev, Ukraine, where African leaders are actually attending that, out on a peace mission to bring the warring factions on the table and possibly find a peaceful resolution of that conflict. And indeed, within the week, budget of 52.7 trillion was read by the Minister for Finance and Economic Planning, and we'll also be looking at the priorities in that budget and possibly the expectations of the Ugandans as far in regard to what was read in that budget. Well, the President missed that big event at Kololo, but of course there are other issues we'll be looking at. Also looking at, during the week, the Director for Public Prosecutions dropped charges against the Renzururu King, Charles Wesley Mumbere, together with 217 others who were rounded up in 2016. They have spent almost 7 years in prison. Luckily, the amnesty application was granted and they have been cleared of all charges, including treason, murder, aggravated robbery, and attempted murder. Well, other issues will be coming in as we move on, but let me introduce Dr. Jared Wanzara. Speak to our viewers.
Good morning, our viewers. It's a pleasure being here this weekend. Good morning, my fellow panelists, Richard, and of course my host. It's a sad day, losing such young people who are so innocent. I also commiserate with their families. As a country, I think we are in the mourning. So thank you very much to be here as I wait to deliberate on a number of issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jared. And then Richard, speak to our viewers.
As always, God is great. God is very gracious. God is very forgiving. We are always here when we plan to, and it is by His grace. So we thank Him for that. We also thank you, the viewers, and greet you. Thank you for always spending your Saturday mornings with us. Yes, we would like to wish our president a quick recovery. He's not in bad health. That's what we talked about even last time. So yes, a quick recovery, Your Excellency. and those around him who also might have been affected because it's contagious. So it would be miraculous that he was the only one in the entire team that he's always with, that he was the one who was affected. Now, the situation that makes it difficult for us now is the repeat of the Chichwamba massacre. Because I was still an active journalist, that must have been, what, 25 years ago? Something like 98 maybe, when we had to rush to Kichwamba to do a story. And so now I'm just thinking, here we are again, same group, same story, same geographical area more or less. Yeah, it's very sad.
What does it? What can we make of it at this point in time? Like you're saying, more than 25 years, the same group, the same story, same tactics. Are they making a statement that all you've done, we are still here and still at large?
I would be hesitant not to connect the resurgence or this particular incident, but it's a resurgence in a way, because there were attacks close to the border, I think last week, and a lot of people rushed and came. There have been attacks talked about, this same group which seemed to be resurgent. I would hesitate not to connect it to the resurgence of the group in Somalia. Yes, I would. In my mind, I think there is. The other thing is that I could see comments that some people were unhappy that the Americans had warned that there was going to be a terrorist incident here. They thought it was connected to the homosexuality law, but anyway, so that has also happened. Maybe another one will. And then our pressure that we have exerted on this group in the Congo, because we went to their we went to their territory and we put pressure on them. Operation Shuja. So that could also be related. So for me, I think it's a but also the dissatisfaction. You talked about it, the Businga and the massacre in Kasese and the situation. I think when you have this resurgence of the other group, then you want to have a population pacified. So you want to let them go and try and compensate them, because then you would have a very hostile population. And these guys are rebels. These guys are guerrillas. They know that when you have a hostile population, you can have trouble.
Doesn't this attack undermine the efforts through Operation Shuja and all those efforts in Eastern Congo? No,
for me, I'm not sure that it undermines. I think we needed to take, it was a classic of defense through offense. That in order to defend here, you have to go and take an offensive to the other ones. They are too close, they are too near. So you have to go and really, in my view, attack them and make it uncomfortable and move them further, like the roads of resistance. Maybe these are the attempts to still say we are alive, we are, but probably that is a situation that will be managed, but the human and other cost is really what is painful.
Thank you. Dr. Gerard, tell us what you think after this horrendous attack. More than 20 years ago, same tactics, same location, almost, same group, and connected with the statements that have been coming in from top army officials and even the commander-in-chief, that the ADF group has been emaciated, has been almost depleted. But here, there is a big statement.
First of all, like Richard said, last year when we began Operation Shuja to go and attack these guys in the jungles of the Congo, you saw them attempting to make a statement by attacking Ntoroko. And in Ntoroko, as they were retreating, they received a very serious beating from the UPDF. which I call an achievement. But it's also sad that since the 90s, when the ADF came around, similar things continue happening despite our efforts to enter Congo a number of times. And then, what I see is at times, maybe there is a failure in intelligence, especially when it comes to numbers. And probably even their tactics have reformed. As you know, we had bombs in the city, and which really terrorized the people of Uganda, and there were also murders of some top high-profile people, where the president said they were connected to, they were killed by the ADF. So meaning that they are still very active within and then outside the borders. So it will call for a reflection on how we are confronting this. Also, the president talked about a number of things, including corruption in the army. And you know, if people prioritize money, resources above anything else, there is always failure that comes in. So all those have to be looked at to ensure that the UPDF we knew is restored and is able to handle the situation effectively.
Well, UPDF and Uganda as a country, we managed to counter offensives from strong insurgent groups like the RRA, and of course it took us 23 years to deplete the RRA, but ADF seems to have resisted and has remained with us.
Now,
does it make it a strong group, or possibly there is something different you can look or see around this?
If you read about the history of the emergence of the ADF and its evolution, evolving over time, first you remember the conflict here in Uganda. And then the attack on the Tabligh groups, and you know, versus the headquarters of the Muslims here, and how the government reacted, and that's how it was formed around the mid-90s. Now, later on, we have had the regional politics changing. We saw the emergence of the Islamic Courts Union, the Al-Shabaab, and now we saw the ISIS, you know, Islamic State, who want to create a caliphate. And now you know that in the region, from here, Mozambique to Congo to here, they are now affiliated, including the Boko Haram in Nigeria. So it ceased to be basically a Ugandan group, but an ideologically driven group with global connections. So that is what complicates it. But I'm very sure if it had remained purely a domestic problem, it would have been weakened.
Thank you so much, and I take the pleasure to welcome Charity Ahimsiwe. Once in a while, she's off, she's on, but we are pleased to have you once again. Though we have a sad story of 25 students being burnt in a school, and we are looking at it as the same story that happened more than 25 years ago in Kikwamba, same area, same group, same tactics. And what do you make of it as you speak to our viewers?
So a very good morning to all our viewers, and good morning, of course, to Richard. He's not been here for some time. Before you say me, I've not been here. Richard was not here. And a very good morning to Dr. Wanzala, yourself, Apollo. Happy to be here. So, of course, it is sad, which is happening to the students, but what I thought should have first happened, we needed to have had an audit report from the time of Kichwamba and learned some lessons which we should have used to plug any future attacks. Because I think from what is happening with what happened in Somalia, an audit is being done. How did it happen? When did it happen? Where were the policemen? Did they see it? And it was told that some of them saw it from the sky. So in Kichwamba, what had happened during the time when the first set of people died? Did we pick some lessons, and did we know that the ADF can use the same tactics anytime and be able to kill such a huge number of students. Because you see, these are casualties. These are ordinary people,
innocent,
unarmed. They don't know about the war. They are not involved in any way in any political contestation. And it is their families that will feel the pinch more than even the government. The government will come out and just make statements like, oh, how sad. And that's exactly what happened even with Kichwamba the first time. That's what happened. They just came out and made broad statements. But the families of those who went at the time are still paying the cost. And do we ever think about it in terms of human rights and in terms of the right to life for those people, the right to security being provided by UPDF internally, externally? You know, we've had a security lapse in the past, I think, 1 or 2 years, and the president has been saying it's because we are surrounded by wars in the whole region. And he said there was need for a concerted effort to have conversations on a continuous basis. This ADF had been sent to Central African Republic. How they happened to come back from Central, and they keep coming. The other time when the boat disappeared with the UPDF people, it was ADF who came out and said, it's us who are responsible for taking them. So they keep coming, they take responsibility for killing somebody, and then they disappear. I think that the practical thing now, because it is a terrorist group, terrorist groups have known methods. The known methods, even when they were in Nigeria, they kill students. Those are part of their known methods.
Boko Haram.
Boko Haram did that. They kill students, so they take them, or they, you know, they must confiscate. They must do something which will make the society get afraid. That is their tactic. That's what they always do.
Terror.
Yes.
They use.
Yes, because they are terrorists. They believe, let's rain it on them, and then maybe they can push their governments. I don't know what they believe in those heads of theirs. But we now need to have a culture of training these people in the high-end risk areas for attack to always be on the alert. During the Konyi War here in northern Uganda, short-term strategies, mid-term strategies, and long-term strategies were used to manage that war. Because on a daily basis, people were running, people were in IDPs, people were being cut, lips were gone, people didn't have a life. There was nothing which was happening in northern Uganda. But ever since they managed to get rid of Konyi and his men and cause them to recede, because I can also say Konyi is a terrorist, because the things he did to these people, he really falls in the category.
So it was a reign of terror.
And so that approach, which was used with these ones, which is being used in Somalia, which was used in Nigeria, should be adopted now for Kichwamba, because it's now becoming an endemic area for
terror attacks.
Yeah, for terror attack. Yeah.
Richard, finally, Charity, talk about we went to Congo. We have Operation Shuja going on. We have other regional efforts fighting insecurity in Eastern Congo. And what does now this mean to such operations and such efforts? If we have a terror attack on our doorsteps right here, and a horrendous attack as it is, 25 others abducted. I mean, at this point in time, when we have operations, military operations going on in Congo and other huge efforts to contain the insurgencies in that area, what does it mean to you?
I think that the rebels coordinate amongst themselves. That when one group can't attack you from another front, they must attack you from another front. And I'm sure that the government here is aware that this is how the rebels operate. In Congo, if you've noticed, the president came out and said the African Union force, I mean the East African
standby force,
it seems to have gone there for their own interests rather than the interests of Congo. And when he made this statement, he later said maybe they should even get out altogether. he was mad, this Sekedi man. But people also say Sekedi is not an astute leader. I don't know if it is to do with being astute or if it is to do with the fact that that place has had wars and rebel groups which amount to 100. There are hundreds, almost 50, 60 rebel groups in just one place. And the whole reason being the minerals and the resources that are there. And who facilitates them? How do the guns come in? So you see, there's a lot of politics in there. And I don't know if his accusation of the East African standby force is sufficient. I don't know whether they also come in with their own interests. I know there is a time when Uganda, there was an ICC court case, and we had to pay money to the Congo.
Reparations for the route.
Yes, because the court proved
the plunder.
That we took timber and took a lot of wealth from there, but which court was proving also that also matters, because this court is ISIS, it is Richard's cousins who like to sit somewhere. For us, why don't we also have the African Union Court review that case and we see, was it really true? We just plundered, did we help in any way? But I think that the fact that Uganda has positioned itself as a warmonger within the region, because for us, wherever there is war, we are trying to get in. South Sudan.
A warmonger, peacekeeper.
You want to call yourself a peacekeeper? Is that what they are perceiving you as?
Yeah, we went to Congo as peacekeepers.
You went there as a peacekeeper. You went to Somalia as a peacekeeper. You went to Central African Republic as a peacekeeper. Is that what the people of Central African Republic are perceiving you as? I've told you, Sekedi is saying no.
At least Somalis are happy.
Sekedi is saying you're coming here for your own interests. Now, if the president himself is saying that, then what does it mean for us?
Regional peace.
What does it mean for us? And of course, the president here has said for him it matters that the region is at peace. For you to develop, because you cannot develop and say, for us we are at peace, for us we will stay here in peace without interference from elsewhere. He says it's very difficult, and I think I've said this over and over, that if there is a person who knows about security and security matters and understands them perfectly, it is President Yoweri Museveni. So if he says this is the strategy, I also think that now we need a PR arm to make these places understand that wherever we are,
for locals to appreciate our
we are there for the sake of peace, not because we just want to steal or plunder.
Dr. Jared Were-Wanzala, your final shot on this. Richard said he's confident government and the army will reign on this. On this, and possibly we'll see come return. Are you really confident to that level that this would soon?
Actually, I know that attacks of that nature do not actually portray strength in the enemy, in this case the ADF, because they occurred at night, targeting innocent people who are not combatants, and then they are murdered for nothing because they are not party to the war. So I believe that these actions are actually cowardly because they fear the strength that the UPDF has and would exert on them. So basically, if you read even the stories, they are saying they retreat to Virunga Park. So I don't expect them to get finished, to be extinguished now. But they may continue doing such acts, but I believe that the UPDF is going to restore calm. However, I'm one of those who believe that probably the operation in the Congo should continue. Because I believe that if you leave them to have that peace, grow food, do abduct Congolese, they end up growing their force. And therefore they become a problem for a long time.
Did Charity say the people along, around that border should be somehow inducted into or prepared for such incidents? Did you say so,
yes,
Charity?
Yes.
Do you find reason and logic in that in doing so?
Yes, because usually if you want to to restore security in a place, the people have a critical role to play because they give you intelligence. They warn, you know, when something is about to happen. They deny the enemy cooperation. And therefore, for me, she talks about that, I honestly, you know, support it. But also there are other mechanisms to ensure sustainable peace. There are people along the borders who may support these people intentionally because of historical conflicts over resources, you know, over these things we undermine sometimes the Obusinga, Barwenzururu. So we need to put building blocks for sustainable peace. If it's about resources, people are not happy, let's have peace building mechanisms.
Okay. Richard, as we move on, did you connect this incident with the decision by the government to drop charges against Omusinga and his group? Did you?
No, I was saying that my own thinking is that the president, the government, the president really, is trying to make peace with Omusinga and Obusinga and the leaders of the Obusinga because they understand the security risk that is now has escalated in that area. You see, the Omusinga is not, in fact, the Omusinga, the subjects of the Omusinga are fewer in Uganda than they are in Congo. The Omusinga has more subjects.
Oh, across the border.
Across the border than he has here. So if you have people aggrieved, and you remember they arrested many people. Remember they also killed, I think the killing was more than 200. The people arrested 180 or whatever it is. Some of them have died in prison. So you have a population that is unhappy.
There were 233 and 32.
Yes.
9 died in prison.
So and these were leaders. Yes, they were leaders, at least culturally. So you have a sustained unhappy population. It will cooperate with your enemy.
Oh.
Yes. So I think for me, knowing that there is a challenge of security, you want to have the population on your side, you need to resolve some of these problems. That's the peace building blocks that Dr. Weneke was talking about.
The decision by government to extend amnesty or to grant amnesty to the Omusinga and 217 others is timely, possibly. It would be timely.
No, it is late. Yes, in my view, it is late. I think when you start Operation Shuja, you know likely the group you are going to fight is going to escalate. They have to fight back. They have to say they are alive. They have to tell their sponsors that they are. They have now, when they are operating in a hostile environment, you have a problem. You see, the people in Somalia did not attack a soft target. No, they attacked our base.
Yes, a military base.
But they were able to hide because again they blend
within the population.
Yes. This is the problem you will be having again around Kasese, Bundibujo, that area. So I think for me, the pacification is a bit late, but we need to accelerate it. We need to do the building blocks. People have lost livelihoods. Many died, but also others have been in prison for more than 7 years. So these programs of Ntandikwa, I don't know, what is the current one? Yoga and PDM, they need there to go there very quickly, but we need a special program, I think, there to start making people a little more cooperative and not that hostile.
Charity, what do you make of the decision by the DPP to drop charges against Omusinga and 217 after spending 7 whole years in prison?
I think that came out of an effort of negotiation, and I think you saw what the Omusinga himself said: I will never stop being a friend of General Salim Saleh. And if you notice what General Salim Saleh usually does, he goes into negotiations for the most difficult team of people. There is a time he even said even him, they had to negotiate for him because he was being perceived wrongly. So I think based on that, he thinks negotiations and understanding people is important. when in the heat of the killing of the people of Kasese, 100 people, Human Rights Watch put out a report, and they called it like a war situation where they kill thousands. I've forgotten the word that the technical word.
Massacre or genocide?
A genocide. So it was looking more like a genocide of the Ugandan people by the Ugandan army. The Ugandan army, the UPDF, is supposed to protect our territorial borders. Now the police is supposed to protect your life, but this time we saw the UPDF coming in to do what it did. But we also know historically that these people in that kingdom had said we want to break away from Uganda. It sounded like the historical perspective of Idi Amin when he said to Nyerere that Tanzania, I'm going to annex it onto Uganda. Just give me another few days. And you see, Nyerere said, what? You're now coming for me? He sent a full army. So this is what had happened with Rwenzururu. The kingdom had said, for us, everything happening in Uganda.
They were talking about Yira Republic.
Chira Republic. Yira. They wanted to have a government within a government. Now, it is impossible for you, even if it was me who was president, to sit there and I've just told you, even Nyerere, who was a calm man, always building peace, when Amin told him, I'm going to annex Tanzania, what happened? Nyerere said, let my army go and fight Uganda. So it happened. So it is the same thing, the way they were positioning themselves and the things they said about government, and on a continuous basis, even during elections, Kasese seemed impossible to manage, and the kingdom was a key player in these things. Sometimes, as a nation, there is a question of when you must put politics aside for the sake of development, for the sake of growth, and for the sake of integration. So if it was going to happen that Kasese had been left to break off, that republic had been left to break off, how many republics do you think would have broken off by now? We would have had one in Gulu breaking off, we would have had another one in Eastern breaking off, maybe even Central would have created a republic of its own. So there must be a force that comes to bring a sense of order. And so the 7 years, I don't think they were wasted. The 7 years were to send a very clear message that there is a government in charge, and that you cannot just wake up and say you're going to secede because you were a kingdom. That these kingdoms were created for a particular purpose. We have the Buganda kingdom, Ankole doesn't have, they got confused somewhere they don't have, but Toro has, the Banyoro have, and now Rwenzururu also has. So these kingdoms have a role to promote national programs.
They are constitutional monarchs.
To promote
constitutional roles.
Yes, to promote growth, to promote constitutionalism, to promote culture, and this is the role they should be playing. So government is saying, yes, for these 7 years, we were trying to make you understand that this is your role, not the one of breaking away. And so now the message has been sent.
If I may ask you, in your opinion, do you think the Kasese
killings were justified?
Issue has been sorted?
If
politically, or
if the king feels close to the government and players in the government, then there is an olive branch of thinking. There might be a good relationship that is starting. If he came out with a statement, I will never forgive the government as a whole, but he seems to have someone in the government who he now feels, if I am aggrieved over anything, I will reach out to him.
Mr. Fix.
Yes, my line is clear with him. So because that olive branch exists, it is good that it makes us feel that there is hope.
Wow.
It's not 100% sorted. It can never be sorted because 100 lives were lost, others were lost in prison, and these people were just committed to their kingdom. I think that a lot of force was used. Maybe the 100 lives didn't need to go the way they did, but what do I know about wars and security? And because Putin is still fighting, Ukraine is still fighting. What are they fighting over? Sometimes you even ask. And then these people are moving in to say, let's have peace. So what do you know about peace and sending messages for breakaways? Maybe this is what
All right.
cost was.
Dr. Jared Wede-Wansala, talk about that decision by government to drop charges against the Rwenzururu King and 217 others after 7 whole years in prison. And Charity brought out that real objective, possibly, that the state had to rein on possibly a chunk of the population who were becoming somehow rebellious, and somehow it paid off. I don't know.
First of all, the government tried to begin making peace with the population of Kasese, of the Rwenzururu Kingdom, a few years back. I think immediately after the 2016 elections, after that, those killings, later on General Salim Saleh went and camped a bit there, and he listened to a number of underlying issues that came out. One of them was the issue of marginalization, that they say in the colonial times they were put under Toro Kingdom and they had no access to any services. They were ruled by Batoro and dominated. They complained about land, that quite a big fraction of their people were pushed in the mountain, and then the land was annexed for the game parks. They're talking about the old vibrant economy of copper, cobalt, in the industries around there, and the coffee, which they said was now absent. And so you see that the issue was economic. Now when it was economic, it turns into political. So efforts have been made, but one of those, of course, the key that were remaining was the release of the cultural leader, and of course many other people had been imprisoned with him. Now, when you talk about the DPP dropping, of course, you will talk about the DPP, but in reality,
It's government.
it is government. Actually, I saw the Honorable Nobert Mao tweeting and saying, when I became minister, I told the Umo singer this, and I think it has achieved the results. And then people were insulting him, calling him a minister of deals, not justice and constitutional affairs, but deals. But I believe in conflicts, it is normal to negotiate.
Yeah, true.
The only challenge in Uganda I see usually is that most of the important negotiations are held in hiding. And there's no mechanism for monitoring who violates what. Because these are standard operating procedures, that if there's a negotiation, you need some observers. You need who is fulfilling what.
You do it like Mao did,
but some
and have it on paper.
Yes, but some
because it would help for future
for future reference.
Yes,
Exactly. But now if you meet in the dark, two people, then you say we have agreed about something, eventually something explodes, the whole country is in darkness, we don't know what's happening. But for me, I commend the government and the Obusingaba Rwenzururu for sitting together
peace.
and choosing peace. Because that's what we want.
So on the side of government, do you think the Kasese issue now is sorted?
Well, it is not complete until the underlying issues are handled, some of which I have mentioned here. That when you negotiate, you always see, even in war, there is cessation of hostilities, you know, permanent ceasefire, demobilization, the disarmament, demobilization, reintegration in society. Then now you go into solving the other things that may create conflict in the population for sustainable peace. Therefore, I believe that after releasing the state need, and for me, actually, before I forget it, the fact is that decentralization is having problems. We thought we were going to give districts and people would get services, people would be okay. It's not working. Why can't we rethink? Maybe we go for devolution.
Devolution.
Yes.
And regionalization.
We have so many
in Kenya.
districts. You saw the budget the other day. We have given them only 11%. 11%, 50% of jobs in the districts are not filled.
We'll get to that
So,
when we go to the budget, and we'll give it some
I was just linking it to this.
Sorry for the Chief of Defense Forces, because this is home.
What do you mean? Oh, that place.
Yeah.
Oh, Mbasumbadi, Gino. Finally, from you, Richard, is it sorted now, the issue of Kasese? Because you remember before 2016, and before 2016, the conflict was real between people, the leaders, and the government, and it turned out in a very, very bad way when the army attacked the palace and people died. Very unfortunate. But now, from what I saw, was it the Prime Minister or someone from there who was saying, we are ready to forgive. We are now ready to forgive. Let's move on. To you, do you think it is now sorted?
No. It's partially sorted. You see, I don't know if people really remember the level of tension. When this election ended.
Yes.
The
2021.
president actually moved away from Kampala. And that's where he went. And actually even walked along, I don't know which river, and General Sari was in charge here. You can't come and murder, I don't know, hundreds of people. They have a lot of their people in the community. We saw the pictures and videos of torture of these others. They have been incarcerated for years. The pain and the bitterness does not just go away because you have done one action of amnesty. No way. So the investment must also be sustained. It's important, of course, I think, now, because 2.5 or 2 years to the next election, then campaigning starts in earnest. Then the poverty, what do you call the poverty eradication crusades start with the high priest, who we know. So this, I think, for me, is the timing for that process.
Really?
Yes. However, the process must actually be accelerated. Yes. Winning the hearts, winning back the hearts is not a one-off situation. And we are dealing with a group that has been working on this for Acholi, for Teso, for, you know. And every time they relax, then the hearts get lost. You have seen in the central here how you have a wave of lost hearts, and it starts in the hearts and the heads go. So that, I think, for me, it's not solved. It's only partially solved, and I think the investment must be accelerated and upped.
Well, viewers, it's the dialogue, and the panel is in the studio to take on the big stories in the week. My name is Prince Apollo. We again commiserate with the family of the Lady Justice Stella Arash Omoko. She also passed on this morning at Nakasero Hospital, and I can see communication from the Deputy Chief Justice Richard Butera indicating that she was appointed a Justice of the Supreme Court in 2013, a position she has served until the time of her death, and of course she had served in other portfolios. Well, we pray for the family and the counter-attack, but most, again, especially the families of the students who perished in that attack in Kasese. We'll be going for a short break, but when we return, still we have other issues to look at. The president, I told you, is still in isolation. He missed out on very important engagements at home and abroad. And of course, during the week, he came out to refute claims. I don't know why actually people want really bad news. There were reports that he was in ICU.
But I saw them on Twitter were saying these are Kenyans.
and I don't know why actually people still, and I will ask you a question, Richard, that exact question. Why people still think that the president is not as, I mean, his health is not as bad as possibly we may think. Well, we go for a break. When we return, we'll be looking at some other issues, including the budget, and you do not need to go away. Let's return from this short break.